9, 8, 7, 6, 5. Yes, I'm going through all of them. 4, 3. It's annoying as mess. 2, 1. For you, John. Happy New Year. I've been thinking of that for an hour.
You think she's thinking about the topic, but no.
Nah, man, nah. Welcome to Call to the Table. Whose line is it anyway but Christian edition? That's for you, Caroline.
Yay, my references mean something.
I'm Olivia, and I'm the loud one who doesn't really think about anything but the funny thing she's going to say in the future.
I'm John, and I'm completely oblivious sometimes.
I mean, that's...
Sometimes?
Yeah, that's...
I'm Jordan, and I'm the red-headed, freckle-faced one.
I'm Caroline, and I'm everything else.
I
don't want you to know what I look like. I want to just be an amorphous blob in your mind. I'm Ditto.
Oh,
I'm
gosh.
just a pink amorphous blob in your mind.
Oh, gosh.
I have one that I'm going to say in a few minutes, or it's the next recording that I'm really excited about. I've been thinking about that one since breakfast.
Oh, gosh.
I can't remember what I said.
I thought of 5 impossible things before breakfast this morning, and they're all things I'm going to say on the podcast. All right.
Yeah.
All right, so today's topic is conflict and handling conflict. So the first thing, before we even get into handling it, is conflict bad?
Yes.
No.
I'm just kidding. No. No. Conflict is good.
Now, I would also put on there, a lot of times the reason why there is conflict is bad.
It's
I
not
mean-
fun. It feels bad.
The Civil War was bad, and the conflict was bad. But the resolution was good.
No, I mean, I think what John's saying is more of like, there's sin in the world, and therefore there shouldn't have to be conflict.
I know, I was just trying to be funny.
But...
And that's where you fall flat on your face.
Can I bring in something slightly controversial
Get
at
out of
first?
my face, it's weird.
I believe that there will still be conflict in a sinless world because problems are not sin. If two people have two different ideas, they come together to figure out the best way to make that happen. So there's conflict coming from sinful reasons versus, I have an idea. Well, I have a different idea. Let's see how we can make this work together. I'm just saying because
that was good.
Like
that was very good.
I really like. So I love thinking
and this
about.
is the podcast where Caroline takes this.
Yup.
No. This is Caroline's little corner of where she likes to daydream about what heaven and other things look like. Because I was just thinking, because people have put this up before, like, what was it like when God was thinking about what Earth was going to be? Like, did he enlist the angels to come and help him thinking about, like, well, what sort of atmosphere would it need? What would the animals and plants need? Like, what are their organs going to look like? How are these things going to function? And, like, just the idea of there being, like, this heavenly laboratory where they're figuring out all these things is just the coolest idea to me. And them talking to God about, like God actively including the angels in the concepts of creation, even though he's the one who actually brings it all together. Like I said, this is purely headcanon. This is not in scripture, but it's something that I like to think maybe happened. And so that's why I'm like, conflict isn't bad. Because God probably was like, well, how are you going to make that happen? And they're like, I don't know. Let's see how this works.
So, yeah, I think I like Caroline's thing. There's conflict is just in general. I had on there that even Jesus had conflict with, like, within his disciples and the religious leaders.
Oh, mercy, yes.
And he is,
he's
perfect.
the leader of 12 pseudo-teenagers / pseudo-20-somethings.
Yes, there was conflict.
There was conflict.
He even had conflict in himself.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Thank you. And he was
you.
a sinless being.
Yep.
Thank you.
So, what are some steps to finding a way to handle conflict? Not what are ways to handle conflict, but just those steps to figuring that out.
Communication.
Amen.
In the food industry, I was taught how to handle complaints, and we were always taught to use last first. L, listen to the complaint.
I was going to say, last resort. Got it. My fist first.
Okay.
Customer
not violent.
is always wrong. I mean, that has... I have certainly learned that when I was in a restaurant for 2 seconds. Yeah, the customer's always wrong. But
you
anyway.
listen. Then you apologize for the inconvenience or whatever happened. Then you solve the problem, and then you thank them.
Thank you for bringing a problem to me
to
when
our
I was
attention.
having a perfectly good day. Thank you for making me feel bad
But
for
thank
10
you for
minutes
giving
of
me
my
the
life.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to fix it.
I know, I just like the implications of that.
I think the biggest thing is exactly what we did before we started recording today, which was Liv coming to us and being like, so this is a problem that I'm potentially seeing, and being very blunt and being very honest again with communication. But I think on top of that, Caroline, you and I have had to do this with our communication and with conflict within us. We have to sit there and go, okay, I need you to help me understand this. Or I am asking for guidance from you of how you're seeing this. And yes, at the root of it, it's communication, but it's taking that step forward and saying, I need help, or I need guidance, or I need your advice on this of how to handle this.
Because we're introverts.
Yes.
I know it doesn't sound like we are.
I'm
but
not.
you can't really be an introvert on a podcast, though.
Nope.
Caroline, be quiet. You're being too extrovert.
Shut up, John. So, if I may, this last...
No, you may not.
This last
Mhm.
concept. I'm sitting here and I'm wearing this face of, like, stewing in it for a second. In a
When we have
positive
a
way.
video podcast, you'll get to see the stewing face.
I make it quite frequently. How would that work in a non-consumer atmosphere?
Well, for instance,
Ooh, yeah.
if you were to have any problem with me,
I do.
yeah, you would come.
Let's pick a problem.
Every day.
Yeah,
Let's pick a problem.
I love
you would
John.
come to me and you would bring it up. It's my job at that point to listen to what you have to say.
Right.
Let's take it to John patting her on the head. Go.
Okay.
What's that gonna look like?
Anyways,
No.
Okay.
You have to go through with it now.
we are not
Demonstrate.
role playing right now.
Yes,
No,
we
we're not.
are.
No.
Thank you, Olivia.
Aw.
But then I would apologize
Uh-huh.
if for any part that I truly see.
Uh-huh.
/ in between this, I'd also be putting my side into it,
Uh-huh.
and you would apologize for any part you saw that you had wrong in too.
Okay.
And then
So this would have to go, this last mentality would have to go both,
both
ways.
ways.
Yes.
In a non-consumer,
In a non-consumer.
atmosphere.
Yes.
My question, I guess, and what I'm trying to, like, what I'm stewing in is, what do you do when that doesn't happen? How do you approach it when you're sitting there and you're having this last mentality and you're realizing that the person in front of you is not on the same page and is actually so consumed in their conflict against you that they are not able to actually sit in that as well? What do you do then?
well,
Didn't know I was going to take this turn.
Oh,
You
this is
should have.
good. No,
Yeah, I
it's
should've.
good.
I mean,
This is good.
but at the end of the day, you have to just do everything you can
Mhm.
and forgive them.
Mhm.
Because also at the end of the day, forgiveness is not for the other person's sake; it's for your sake.
Absolutely.
And if they don't want to have that mentality of forgiveness and understanding, I can't make you have that mentality.
Right.
You're going to have to get to it one way or another.
So would you say that that would immediately diffuse some conflict?
I mean, no. Because if the other person is so enveloped in the conflict,
Mm-hmm.
they're going to be thinking about it no matter what.
Right. So then how, like, again, it's the why question. Well, why? Well, why? I'm going to keep asking this until...
She's gonna be a 5-year-old.
For a second.
Why?
But just for a second, because in my line of work, conflict can happen, conflict doesn't happen. It just depends. Like, at the end of the day, I'm a teacher. It's the same. It's a consumer
Mm-hmm.
session. But I'm saying, like, take that a step further. So wouldn't that, like, if someone else is sitting in it, what happens if they continue to bring their side of the conflict into your daily life? So say it was between us. Say we had conflict and you were approaching it with this last mentality, okay? But I was like, no thank you. I just want to tell you off, and I just want to let you know how frustrated I am and how hurt I am and how much of conflict I'm going to bring to the table, and then I'm going to take it and I'm going to be like, all right, whatever, have nothing to apologize to you, turn around, but I keep coming back with new forms of conflict, tearing you down. When do you say, this last mentality isn't working, I now need to find some other way to resolve this conflict? And what would that look like?
Well,
I'm thinking I'm asking you because you're one of the most forgiving, like, tender-hearted people I know. So I'm wondering, like,
That's why I married him, people. We do need to say that, because that has not been stated. Me and John are married.
oh yeah, y'all too. They're married.
That has not been mentioned. Me and John are married.
And Olivia is about to get married, and
Yeah,
I
in
am
September.
single. I am ready to mingle, but like I
I
don't know.
love that. I'm single and ready to mingle.
I didn't say it with confidence though.
I guess I'm ready to. Anyways.
So I'm saying this because where I am with conflict, I agree with you in the last mentality. I agree with you in listening and apologizing, and then continuing on, up till thanking them for bringing that to my attention. But there does come a point where I'm a little bit more stern, and I have a little bit, in my opinion, I feel like I have a little bit of a harder heart when it comes to these things, and I guard my heart a little bit more in that sense. And you definitely have a very forgiving nature, which is not bad in any way, shape, or form. I'm not saying this as like a negative thing. When do you, John, sit back and say, I'm tired of this rehashing and this recycled conflict? When do you say, I'm done and I'm not going to do this anymore?
See, and there's a huge difference between work-related stuff and personal-related stuff.
I was about to say I can speak from it from both ends for you of what I've seen. Now, obviously, it's
from a
different.
work-related set point. I'm able to just sit there and go, you know what? I'm here to get a job done. I'm going to get my job done.
Right.
And I can just kind of push you off to the side in the meantime.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, because I picked something up and did something with it that you didn't like, doesn't change the fact that the job got done. When it comes to a more personal thing, like at home, that...
We're still working
on that. But...
That's what marriage is, guys.
That's what marriage...
What it ultimately comes down to is finding... Because a lot of times when you get into things like that, that's not the actual problem.
Yeah.
Okay, yes.
You have to go and
I
try
agree
to
with you.
find the root and attack the root.
Absolutely.
And the root does not always make itself known.
Right.
They always say the squeaky wheel gets the oil. Well, the squeaky wheel sometimes is muffled underneath a pile of blankets, but it's still the squeaky wheel.
Right.
And until you truly get down in there and get the oil on it, you're not going to fix this surface problem.
Mm-hmm.
And because the surface problem is just that, it's superficial.
Right.
Yeah.
And there have been problems even within our marriage, even though the short time it's been, and different problems came up, and we're like, well, why do these problems come up?
Or keep coming up.
And we're still in the process of trying to find the root cause on some things, and some things we have found. And at the end of the day, it's going to have to take persistence. It's going to take feelings being hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And that's not necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes your feelings have to be hurt. Jesus wasn't afraid to hurt people's feelings.
Right, because
Yeah.
of truth. Truth is not always
Nice.
is not always unpainful.
If you don't have something nice to say, don't say anything.
Well, if it's the truth,
okay.
if you don't have the truth to say, then don't say anything. My rendition.
I'm about to say, last I checked, it wasn't nice for Jesus to be flipping over tables in the temple.
Yeah.
But
He did it.
He did it because it was the right thing to do. It
Right.
was the truth.
I think just from being married to John, to answer your question, Liv, for him, from what I've seen and, him coming home, going back to what he was saying about the differences with work, the last mentality stops with him when it just, like, for example, a job that he has part-time now, the reason he has it part-time is because it got to the point where he was having anxiety from it because of the conflict going in.
Mm-hmm.
When it gets to the point where it's affecting his mental state, obviously, and not just him being frustrated or whatever, that's where he put his foot down and was like, that needs to change.
Yeah.
And that came from both of us because we are married, and so changes have to be made together.
Right.
But yeah, that for him, as far as work stuff goes,
Yeah.
it was I'm going to put my foot down because it's becoming obvious.
Yeah.
in my mental health, and then, there's physical signs now, because he is a guy. So a lot of things for him is very, physically motivated in the sense of, okay, am I feeling depressed? Am I feeling anxious? Am I having those physical symptoms?
And and I'm glad you think I'm a very forgiving person. I do know I struggle with anger.
Right.
And that's something that I know I got from my father, and I know, so I purposely watch out for it, which is why I became a more forgiving person.
Yeah.
But I can get angry at the drop of a hat. I have to sit there and tell myself, don't show it, because 1, is it worth getting angry over? 2, the amount of anger you have, is it the right amount? And usually by the time I get thought through all this stuff, it chalks up to, why does it matter at all?
Right. Or in my sense, what was I angry about?
Yeah. What was that again?
But yeah, and most of these things are things I know about you already.
Mm-hmm.
And podcast sake, I'm never gonna push you guys to a point where you spill all the tea, and I won't, spill all.
It's
of my
gonna come out
life.
eventually.
But I know you, and I know that the last mentality and the last, focus, I know that you're gonna push that all the way up until it's time to stop. And for me, I'm going to do that 1 or 2 times, and it's a fault of mine. I'm going to do that 1 or 2 times, and then I would notice, like, there is a deeper root, and if you're not willing to go to it, then I'm not willing to go to it either.
Yeah.
We're done. It's like, I'm willing to do the extra work when other people are willing to do the extra work as well, So, yeah.
I do kind of laugh because we're talking about deeper roots.
Sorry.
With you wearing,
I'll come closer. You want to hear my voice better? Okay.
I am laughing at we're talking about roots with, you having a root vegetable on your shirt.
True Farms, baby.
I think a wonderful way to sum up what we've been talking about is boundaries. When you have conflict, your boundaries are opened.
Yep.
And so that both parties can come out. But then it's a matter of how soon do those boundaries shut, or how far do we go until we reach a proper boundary and the conflict is resolved? Because that's a huge thing with like continuing conflict. I had a very ill grandmother for a while, and she loved nothing better than to argue. Like, she could argue with a stump, they would say. She could argue with a fence post. And I do not like conflict. I recognize that conflict is necessary.
Wait, was that high five because I can argue with a stump? Or was that because of our conversation?
Because you and me both like arguing.
Oh, okay. I was like, wait a sec.
Here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. There's a difference between liking discussion, like lively discussion, which is what y'all do, versus, like, there was sometimes a touch of meanness in it, which I know partly was the pain talking, but it's like, I finally got to the point where it's like, okay, this is where I stop. This is my boundaries.
Yep.
This is not healthy. I can't do this because you're arguing over stupid things. And I learned how to handle that, because she was getting older, and all these, different tactics, which I know for a lot of people our age listening, you figure out how you gotta, it's not that you're working your family members, but it's like, this is how they work. This is how I keep myself safe. This is how my boundaries stay in place, so that way we don't have to deal with unnecessary conflict.
Right. It's poor word to use. It's manipulating the atmosphere of the situation.
Yeah.
And I hate using the word manipulate because
it has negative context, but
exactly,
that's it.
But it's what it is. You manipulate the atmosphere of the conversation. You avoid conversation, and you remove yourself from conversation in certain aspects, and then you interject certain things that is going to be passionate on the other side, so it doesn't lead them into conflict.
Mm-hmm.
Hence the reason I always try to stay away from politics in certain conversations. Not gonna say which ones.
Well, it's putting up it's you touched on this, but it's putting up those boundaries. And again, manipulation has such a bad connotation, but it's more of being mindfully aware of, I know that in my family, I love my family to death, but we are very opinionated about politics and stuff like that and religion. I know that if it ever gets brought up, there are certain people in my family that are going to be more passionate about it than, you know, I would be.
Dip out.
Yeah, and that's the point is then I put up those boundaries of I can't control everybody else. I can't sit there and worry myself to the point where concerning the fact of I don't know if politics is going to get brought up.
Right.
What I do know is like if politics does get brought up, I know that's something that John is interested in. He knows that I'm not. I'm going to go and hang out with maybe my mom or
throw him in the fire.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to sit there and get mad
Put
at
the
him.
gloves on and everything. Let's go.
Yeah.
Into the trash you go.
I'm not about to sit there and get mad at John for engaging in something he likes.
Right.
All I need to do is just remove myself from the situation.
Exactly.
So it's not, I don't feel like it's, again, the connotation of manipulation. I don't think it's so much that, but it's just sitting there and being mindfully aware of, do I want to put myself in the middle of this and then possibly walk out and be hurt? Or do I just want to remove myself and hear about it later?
Right.
And I mean, that is the biggest thing is just putting up those boundaries, which I think we've all had to do with friends and with family and stuff like that.
Oh, absolutely. Boundaries are healthy. You know, one of the things that I learned moving back to Georgia, because I lived in Houston for 4 years, and then about a year and a half ago I moved back, was what are healthy boundaries and what are unhealthy boundaries.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
What walls keep people out because I need them to be kept out, and what walls keep people out because the Lord wants me to keep them out of that situation. And knowing your healthy boundaries and knowing what boundaries are healthy and which ones are unhealthy is actually more beneficial than just putting a wall up around yourself.
Yep.
I mean, I know when you guys met me, I probably had several walls up. And I, came
You were
back.
also in a different relationship at the
do.
time.
This is true. But I was also in a different place with my spiritual walk as well.
Yeah.
I was a little bit, not naive, but I was a little bit more, wide-eyed, like, let's do everything. And then I came back, and I'm a little bit more, and I hate using this term, but a little more charismatic and a little less on the, traditional side of faith and Christianity. But knowing what boundaries are healthy, like knowing the boundaries of my work is my work, my family is my family. I'm not going to bring, even though I'm really bad at this, I'm not going to bring my work life and my work frustrations home with me and put that on my future husband.
Yeah.
It's like, how do I separate myself? But also, how do I keep my husband and my life with my future husband and my life with my family and my life with my friends? How is that a boundary for my work life? My work life does not need to know my personal life. My work life does not need to know what is going on. Not that there's anything to hide, but that's not on them to have to know that. That's a boundary I have to put up. Telling my work, I cannot do this at this time is a boundary because I need to do what protects myself.
Yeah.
So knowing the difference between a healthy boundary and an unhealthy boundary is really good too.
So
is what I was getting at.
We kind of went like everywhere so far with our outline because I'm just looking at mine. We've already talked about whether or not conflict is bad, and we've talked specifically about boundaries, but we've also got in here the steps to handling conflict.
No, I mean that's what we've been talking about is figuring out the boundaries you need to put up, and I mean that's.
No, I get that. It's just I actually wrote out steps.
Oh,
okay. Can
Yes.
I share my steps?
Yes, you can share your steps. What is step one?
I do want to point one thing out. How did we get all the extroverts on one side of the microphone and all the introverts on the other side of the microphone?
It's not extroverts and introverts. It's just I thought it would be entertaining to put you and Lydia next to each other.
It's kind of the level though. We have Uber, less Uber, the social introvert.
They don't see who you're pointing to.
Less social.
For those who need to know, I am the Uber.
I am the not so Uber.
I'll take it.
I'm social.
I
Sort
am
of.
less social. But anyway,
Yeah.
that doesn't mean I'm creepy or anything.
It just really came down to the point of I just wanted you two next to each other.
Yeah.
Because otherwise they're shouting across for
This
me.
is true. And we don't have to shout. either.
I mean,
You can
we
speak
probably still
tenderly to
do.
each
Probably
other.
just- huh?
Much close. You can speak tenderly to each other, much
Here,
closer to each other.
I'll remove this headphone so you can speak tenderly into my ear.
I'm not speaking tenderly. That's
See,
awkward.
conflict.
That is literally like speaking tenderly to my brother. Like, that's weird. And I don't.
So these are my steps, and I'm sure we've already addressed some of them. Just boundaries is such a huge thing.
Be prepared for me to ask you 1,000 questions. Though.
That's fine.
Just like I
That's
did with
fine.
John.
That's fine.
I'm ready for this.
The first step to handling conflict is recognizing that there's even a problem.
Amen.
Because some people don't even, like,
Yes.
it's like you can tell there's sort of something, but it's like, we don't want to talk about the elephant in the room. We don't want to talk about it. No, you have to talk about
Right.
it. There is obviously something going on. Why will you not recognize it? And, it's hard to go further if you don't actually acknowledge the problem, as well as stating the source of the conflict, being able to shape, this is what the conflict actually is. Because sometimes, like, when I try and analyze myself, because I am a very introspective person, sometimes it surprises me when I go deeper and I go, oh, this is the actual root of this. I thought it was this other thing. Figuring out what that is makes it so much easier, because it's like, you're not digging for the little, like when I impaled my toe with a toothpick.
That was the greatest phone call ever.
You're not digging in the wrong places. You're actually going towards the source of the pain and
Please tell
pulling
me
out the
this
little
was
bit of
not
toothpick.
by choice.
Okay.
No, this was not by choice.
Okay,
ABD,
hold on.
hold on.
Was it an accident?
Hold on. I want to do
Yes.
this really, really
Then it's
fast.
fine.
Oh, let me tell my
No,
own
I
story.
am going to let you tell your own
Okay,
story.
fine.
Hold on. Story time with Caroline.
You just wanted to say that.
I did.
All right. So, when this was high school, right?
Yeah, you were like 17.
Okay, yeah, because my maternal grandmother was still alive.
Yes.
So this is when she was still living with us at home. And we had a part in the home where the linoleum of the kitchen immediately changes to the carpet.
I'm done.
I'm sorry, but our listeners aren't, so cover your
I'm
ears,
done.
silly.
Let go of me.
So, I was barefoot.
Oh.
It was summer.
Oh, no.
This is where
I'm
Olivia
sorry.
might need to leave the room.
Everybody else is interested, so...
No one is interested.
Here's some pillows. Cover your head.
So,
You are knocking
guys,
things over.
no,
Oh my gosh. Stop.
Anyway, I mean, I'm just walking along, and then I feel this really sharp pain in my big toe. And I was like, what the heck? What did I step on? And then I see a broken toothpick underneath it. And I'm like, ow, that hurt. Because my grandmother would use those...
Oh, that's even worse. That's even worse.
And so it keeps hurting. And so I go, what the heck is wrong with my toe?
Oh my gosh.
And so I lay down on the couch so that I can pull my leg around to get a proper look at my foot, because I'm not flexible like certain other people. And that's when I see the gaping red hole.
Oh.
And I scream bloody murder. They take me to the
Urgent care.
urgent care. Yeah, it's not the ER. And this lady, I swear, the syringe, it was just
Okay.
huge.
Oh gosh,
And it
no,
had
you don't need to get in that.
yellow,
No.
Anyway, and
I
it
have 3
burned
tattoos
like
and
fire.
still hate needles.
It burned like fire. And I mean, she told me that it went in straight and then it diverted at an angle.
Gosh.
And so, I mean, I'm sitting here just like...
So it broke
half-
in your foot.
Yes.
I'm half singing to myself, trying to like just not freak out that she's digging around inside of my toe.
No, you don't need
Okay.
We
get the point.
And I still have a scar to this day.
But here was the
Great.
funniest part of that entire story. Ready? Our friend Will, shout out Will, our friend Will calls me and is like, I mean, I answer the phone, I am like, hello, and he's like, Caroline got a toothpick stuck in her foot!
That's disgusting.
I mean, was like so excited. He's like, they had to get it out. And
Oh,
it's
my
like,
feet
why are
hurt.
you excited about this?
We used
Because
to
of the-
have the tip, but Mom chucked it, and I'm so sad about that because it was so cool.
No.
Okay, conflict. You had a list. Let's go back to the list.
Thank you for joining us for
Story
Stories with
times.
Caroline.
Story time with friends.
Story time with
Shout,
friends.
shout out to... I'm forgetting your name. Anyway, I love you. You're a cool Viner. So yeah,
So
recognize that there's conflict. State the source of the conflict. So that way you can actually know what's going on. I used my incident as an excellent example of that.
Creeped Olivia out.
Step 3. If the conflict can't be resolved immediately, allow all parties a time apart to reflect and cool down if necessary. Just because that's the way everybody handles conflict differently. For some people, they're like immediately just ready to go.
Me.
Yeah, Liv. John. Jordan and I?
No.
Big thing for me. Not that I'm like a huge Myers-Briggs person, but I am an INFP. And like, I really do match my write out very well. Not perfect, because nobody does. But basically it says that when I am upset, it's very hard for me to think logically because I'm so upset. I just want to throw things out that will, like, against my attacker, quote unquote attacker, because that's how my stupid brain works. And so it's like, no, I cannot release the angel of death within my heart because if I do, it's just going to start killing things willy-nilly, and that's not how conflict works. And so that's why I need a time to cool down, to allow my logical brain to tie up my emotional brain so that way they can talk, figure out what's going on, stop looking at my screen because it's spoilers, and then I can come back to the person and we can talk logically. And I'll also have all of the facts about how I felt because I'm like an ogre. There are layers. There are layers. I will reference Shrek for this. There are layers.
Ogres have layers.
I am
Like
an
onions.
onion. I'm an onion. I have layers. And I like being able to take each of those layers apart and go, because of this, we've also got this, and we've got this, and we've got this. So that way I can backtrack and go, this is where I was at fault. This is where I believed you were at fault. So that way we both understand each other more easily. I wish I had the superpower of understanding people's intentions. Like, I feel like that would be a great way of handling conflict. But, okay, that's my little soapbox for there. Okay, after that, you come back together and state things from your perspective only. No finger pointing. Say how things make you feel and how things seem to you. Because that's actually something, I want to say they taught me like in elementary school, and it just kind of stuck with me. Don't say you. Say this is how I feel. This is how I feel.
Don't use accusatory language.
Yeah, don't use accusatory language, exactly. Because that just makes the other person angrier. Like, I mean, unless you don't just go, I feel bad because you murdered someone. No, you know, there's a time and place for everything. There's context. There's context.
I am hurt by your decision to end a life, but I am resolving this conflict by accepting that this is an action that hurts me, and it's not accusing to you. No, you killed somebody. I had to. I've been a little quiet, so I had to.
Please, it's okay.
And I was finger pointing
Liz,
at
you would make an amazing lawyer.
My next point is kind of ironic given the way our group works. No interrupting. Communication must be open and fluid. I mean, and that's something Jordan and I have talked about because
during conflict,
we'll hear something that we want to make a point about, but then it's like, but the other person hasn't said their whole thing.
right?
Because they might be addressing your point at a later point in their tirade. So you have to give them time to say the whole piece. It's like you can't analyze, English major here, you can't analyze a whole paper just from the opening paragraph.
Yes, you can.
No.
You can't on my papers.
Okay, I have 2 more steps, I swear. Accept whatever comes from it. Either agree to disagree, which is something that Jordan is ridiculously huge on.
That'll be my rant.
And move on. Or compromise, or apologize, or whatever needs to be done. Let it be done. And last but not least, don't let this hang over your head. Whatever happens, accept it. Even if it takes forgiving the person over and over and over again. Last true story from Caroline. My father committed adultery, and it has taken a very long time for me to come to an even better place about this because I would have to forgive him over and over and over again. I would have to forgive her over and over and over again. It makes it even worse because my dad passed away last year, and that opened up a whole can of worms, and that made me have to forgive even more over and over and over again. But I can't let something hang over my head. Yep. And every time something comes up, I still have to go through that processing skill, but that's part of grief. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, heck, when you have a adultery happen and a divorce, you are in the grieving process, you know, for what was. So it's part of the process, understanding that. but not letting it hang over your head and addressing it when it comes. So, yeah, that's from me personally how I believe it's good to handle conflict.
And now we get questions from Liv.
Yes.
Because she's sitting
man,
there waiting so
die.
patiently.
I'm gonna
So,
die.
No. I agree with just about every step that you state.
Except.
No, there's no except. There's no but. My question.
Oh, I wish I had no butt.
I have a big butt.
I have a but. But I don't have a but in this. My question to you is, first a statement, then a question. Mm-hmm. This model sounds really good when you're addressing conflict with someone who has the exact same mindset as you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
How would you then address conflict with someone who is I need to resolve this now? Now, I do Enneagram. I'm a type 6, so the reason I feel like addressing conflict as quickly as humanly possible is most efficient for me is because I immediately go to worst case scenarios, everything that I've done to make that individual mad or have a conflict with me.
Right.
There they are laid out. How do I fix each one of these so I'm ready for whichever one comes at me and I don't stew in, well, I said this, that might have made them mad here. I said this might have been misconstrued here. So say you're having a conflict with someone like me who likes to get things taken care of real fast, one and done, knock it out, but you need time to sit back. How do you accommodate both?
Okay, no, I get this, because I've already been thinking about this.
Because you knew I was going to ask you.
I mean,
Because we've already talked about this before.
Yeah. Spoiler alert, we know about things before we talk about them. with you guys.
Shocker.
Whoa.
Shocker. So,
Wow.
Really?
Sort of.
it is difficult for someone whose emotions they run a little higher, which I don't like. I don't like that about my personality, but it's the way my brain works. One of my English professors once said, everyone starts off as a live wire when they're a kid, and life experiences are that tape that gets wrapped around it.
Yeah.
And some people's wires are not wrapped as much as other people's, and it's like, yeah, that's the way I am. That makes sense. But I would want to accommodate that person, just because I feel like, because I want to resolve that conflict, even if I know I need extra time for a certain thing, I would want to make sure that I let the other person know, this is how I'm feeling. This is why I want a little time to myself. This does not mean X, Y, and Z.
Right.
Because this is what Jordan and I talk all the time about. I mean, we'll preface things. Like, because one of the worst things I know on the internet, people are like, getting the text message that says we need to talk makes us crap our pants immediately. Exactly.
Right.
So we always preface it with, this is not about this is not about this, you're not in trouble, I'm not mad about something or other. It's making sure they understand where you're coming from for that reason. I'm not just going to shut somebody down, particularly someone with your type, and go, I'm sorry, I need time to myself.
Right.
Unless I feel like I'm literally about to explode on you, like, that's probably the only thing I would say is, I feel like I'm about to explode, don't want to do that, bye, give me a sec.
Right.
And then, you know, because I don't want people to misunderstand the intent behind things. Because, like, you know, I don't have ill intent toward these things, and I don't want anybody, just because I'm totally a worst case scenario person.
Yeah.
You know, like, my mind will do the same exact thing, you know. Although it's funny how we handle it differently. But anyway. But yeah, it's just making sure they know what's happening at the current situation.
Yep. Right.
So that way when you do come back, it's like, okay, I'm sorry, my emotions were clouding my brain.
Right.
Now I can speak logically. You know. So that way it's understanding why you're doing something when you're handling conflict.
Right.
It's like, honestly, the more meta you get, the better.
Yeah.
The better. So, I don't, does that answer it?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Yay!
Because I think it's really interesting because I remember there were times living in different places, having different roommates, having to understand conflict with different people. And I had a roommate that was very much I need to cool off before I have a conversation, but wouldn't communicate that to me. So would just dip out, and I would then stew and become even more emotionally raged because I
Right.
couldn't get my words out. And I'm not the best communicator on the planet. Vocally, mentally, just communication through words
us
is
are.
very, very
Yeah.
difficult.
That's why you communicate through your body.
Exactly. That's why I dance. But if I can't, my brain will work a lot faster than my mouth will work, which usually is the opposite problem. And so I can't keep up, spilling these out because this is racing 1,000 miles an hour. You're very similar in that. And so it gets then frustrating to...
She was talking to John, by the way.
Yeah. It then becomes extremely frustrating when someone's like, well, what is the root problem? What is really causing you a lot of anxiety? What's really causing you a lot of conflict? I can't answer unless I go through every single sentence that my brain has then already wound up, which is, extremely difficult for someone who needs that cool down time.
Yeah.
Because all I need to do is talk it through. And I've learned that sometimes I need to take a step back, let my brain do its windy thing while that person's taking their second. They'll come back. I can then spill out everything and I find the root issue in my conflict. But I just think it's really interesting. I like knowing how different people interact with the opposite conflicting person.
And I'll say this whole communication thing, like, I wasn't really good at it until I got out of college because I was an incredibly awful roommate during college. I had never left home before, never lived on by myself before. I was literally a tiny little goldfish in a huge ocean, and I panicked, like straight up panicked. All of the pressure. I was an absolute crying mess, and I didn't let anybody in my family know about it, including Jordan, because I didn't.
I'm not in her family.
People. Yes, you are, woman.
I'm extended.
Yeah, friends. Anyway, so yeah, I look back on that time as one of the lowest points in my life because, I mean, at least now I can see, like, this is what I am capable of. I understand why I went there. Unless mom just, like, kicked me out to go to summer camp every year or, do other stuff, I didn't have anybody growing up with, like, in my neighborhood. I've been alone for a majority of my life. Of course, when I go to college,
you got all mad
crazy.
at me for calling you. I was getting you prepared.
No, girl, I know. Well, okay.
I was preparing you for the socializing.
I know, but
Jeez.
But see, here's the thing. When you don't socialize as a kid, it makes socializing as an adult harder. And so that's why it is good to go out there and do it. And I have reached I don't want to say I've reached a new low, but I reached a low that I don't want to go back to because I was able to be that bad roommate. I now know I don't want to do that ever again.
Right.
I know how to handle conflict. I've lived by myself, and now I am sort of roommating with my mother right now. And it's just growing me as a person.
Yeah.
And that's okay. I still feel bad for being an absolute awful roommate to my other 3 people, but, like, I think they're doing okay. I occasionally look them up on Facebook, so I didn't ruin their lives or anything, but, like, you know what? You can learn and move on, and that's a good thing. And it has taught me how to be a better person because now I know how to handle conflict and communicate and all that lovely jazz.
And I think that's my list on how to handle conflict.
I spoke your list.
Is be prepared to learn and grow for yourself, not learn or teach and grow other people. It's conflict is a teaching tool for ourselves. And when I read and when we talked about what are some ways to handle conflict, I think going into conflict prepared to grow and learn. That would be my list. Just those 2. Like, just be prepared to grow as a person. That's all.
Hey guys, we still don't have any ads from sponsors yet, but if you're interested, you can email us at calltothetable@gmail.com. You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram at calltothetable.pod, P-O-D. We'd love to hear from you, especially if you have any topics you'd like us to cover, or if you have any prayer requests or praises. Thanks again for listening. Bye!
right, so we've kind of touched on this already, but what are, I guess we can just go around the circle. What are some more specific ways or techniques or whatever that we have found to handling conflict that works really well? Like I said, we've already kind of touched on this with the steps, but I have no problems going on my rant for this.
Go ahead.
Yeah, why don't you just start?
Just start it
Because
off.
what I'm going to say is probably the exact same thing.
It's gonna be a little bit bilateral.
Mine is agree to disagree, and that's not cussing. No, I mean, I think there's a lot of conflicts that arise that really can honestly just be solved. Kind of live what you were talking about earlier of what happens when one person has one view and they're kind of stuck with it, and the other person has another view and they're stuck with it. How does that happen? You know, how do you resolve that conflict? You sit there and agree to the fact that you're never going to disagree, or
Yes, we're never going to disagree.
You're never going to disagree. You agree to the fact that you're always going to disagree on this, or not always, but for the time being, you're going to disagree on it.
And that's okay.
And that's okay. Oh my gosh, it's okay to disagree on stuff. It's okay to disagree. You know, we have and we will talk about problems like within the church and certain churches believing in certain things. It's okay for them to have those beliefs. We're just saying that we may not agree with it. We also are not attending those churches now.
Right. It's the acceptance versus tolerance debate.
Yes.
We don't have to accept everything that comes our way. We just have to tolerate the fact that that's the opinion of somebody else, but that doesn't mean we tolerate the person. It means we still love the person. We still show Christ-like behaviors towards the person. But we don't have to accept their views. We just have to tolerate their views.
Yeah.
I mean, as Jesus did to the adulterous woman, I do not condemn you, but go forth and don't do it anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't condemn you, but I don't condone it either. It's the balance of, I'm not going to sit there and put that judgment on you, but I'm also not going to sit there and tell you that it's okay that you did it. I can agree to disagree.
Focus towards the mic.
Over and over again. Agree to disagree. That needs to seep into the language of our world, because there's so many wars and so many fights and so many friendships and just, you know, relationships that have been destroyed because they come to a conflict that they can't agree on, and it's like, it's okay that you don't necessarily agree on it unless it's something that is a
literal life or death.
Yeah, you know, if I don't necessarily agree with you murdering somebody and you do agree with somebody, you murdering somebody.
We'll just agree to disagree.
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously an issue, but I think as far as small things, you know, John and I, when we got together, John's really big in politics, not in politics, but he likes talking about politics. No.
He's secretly running for president.
He's not.
President of myself.
Yes, Liv.
Never mind.
But no, John and I had to have that agree to disagree mentality when it came to politics. Of, he knows that I don't pay attention to politics. I don't vote. There's reasons behind that. But
don't send hate in the comments.
Don't send hate in the comments. There's a good reason why I don't.
And
vote.
she'll explain, but just not like now.
Yeah.
So wait with bated breath.
But yeah, John has now come, will come to me every once in a while and talk about certain things that he's found, but he also knows not to, like, go into full depth about it because that's not my thing. And we had to agree to disagree on that, which is funny because politics is typically something that they say you have to agree on in order to be married. Well, we don't necessarily agree on everything with politics because I don't pay attention to it. So, I mean, I think that's a big thing for me is using that technique of agreeing to disagree when it's appropriate. Again, if it's murder,
I'm sorry, I will never agree to disagree with someone who's like, I'm just gonna kill someone. Okay. No.
You go have fun doing that.
Don't include me in this.
Well, I mean, another thing that happens with us a lot is specific word usage.
Yeah, we touched on that.
For instance, try not to do absolutes like you always.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes. Absolutes are awful.
Absolutes are awful.
Or
We
never.
Never. Olivia, you never shut up.
John, you never listen.
I'm listening now, aren't I?
No, you're not.
John, your brain is always leaking out your nose.
Yes, it is.
Yes! Anyways.
That's how the ancient Egyptians pulled the brain out of the skull.
That's
I know.
gross.
Anyways, another thing for us specifically is stop doing the eye rolls.
Oh my gosh, that created
She
more.
does it. She
No,
does
no,
it
no, no, no,
right
no,
now.
no, no, no.
She, oh my gosh, eye
No, no, no.
rolls for days.
We can roll our eyes when we're not in the middle of an argument or a
That's so
fight,
funny.
but if we are fighting, we cannot roll our eyes at each other.
Because it,
Because that turned into a fight.
It's
stop
good.
rolling your eyes at me.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yep.
Also, we touched on this earlier. There's a whole lot more clarity face to face than
Yeah.
it is through text message.
Yep.
And the levels in between.
Even though Jordan and I have been able to resolve a conflict through
That
text
was this
message,
year. That was this year.
That took years of practice, though. So
But
we're- yeah.
even now, we still don't like doing it. If we
Well,
can call each
yeah.
other, we do.
we don't like it, but we've been able to
We
do
did
it.
once.
We were so proud of each other after that. We got a good laugh out of it. It's like
We called each other. We were
did
like, we're
it.
so proud of each other.
like parents to each other. Good job, honey. Good job, honey. Good job, honey.
And if you are doing it not face to face, always remember there's another person on the other side. Because a lot of times it's a lot more of my view versus this wrong view in your own
Internet.
mind. Oh gosh, internet's the worst. But it's all, they always forget that there's another person on the other side of that viewpoint.
And that's
Yep.
wach the comments section is the scum of the earth.
Yeah. I mean, if you
And that's why I'm the one handling it.
I'm rethinking
Are you
that
ready?
now.
You ready? You ready? You ready?
I don't respond. I just have, no offense, but I have thicker skin to where that doesn't bother me.
Yeah. I mean,
Mind
it's
taking
true.
care of it. I'll read it and be like, okay, don't care.
Delete.
Delete.
Oh gosh.
Anyway, sorry.
But no, I mean, I think that goes into being, on the internet and stuff when there's conflict arising on the internet.
Yeah.
The fact that we are so quick to snap back and be snarky and be the meanest that we can be, and there's
Yeah, just
another
read it.
person.
And I say I don't care anymore.
There's
Bye.
no accountability on the internet.
And there isn't accountability on the internet, which sucks.
Oh, that leads me into mine.
Go for it, Liv.
Yay! Your rant for this session.
No, it's not a rant. Because we were talking about like the important thing about conflict and stuff. For me personally, it's know when to be straightforward and speak your truth and not beat around the bush. Did I take yours?
No.
I was about to say, you already said yours. My turn. I'm going around in a circle. Not the right way either. Really, really weird. Very confused.
It's clockwise. How's it not the right way?
It was different the last time.
I can only read digital clocks, John. Don't you know that?
I can read other clocks. I'm good at
I
all
just
things.
choose not to.
Exactly. Just like not, beating around the bush then leads to misconceptions, and that leads to not being completely truthful on your side. It's kind of tiptoeing around the feelings of another person, and I understand why that's necessary, and I understand when that's necessary. But at the same time, wouldn't it be just that much easier to say, hey, this right here really hurt my feelings. This right here really, I'm taking this way. Can you clarify that? Or instead of saying, but yeah, when that tone is used and, when you roll your eyes, it kind of hurts my feelings, but not every time. No, just say what is the truth for you. Not accusing, not, in a loving, gracious way, but speak your truth, because at the end of the day, you're only creating more harm to yourself. I know from personal experience, you're only creating more harm to yourself if you beat around the bush and don't actually say what's on your mind. That's all.
John, you had a little moment.
You had a moment.
What was your moment?
I can't remember what it was right this second.
Oh my
It was
gosh.
more of a speak the truth type of moment, but I
You
can't
were just agreeing with me,
Yeah.
I know.
That's shocking when y'all agree with
We
each
agree
other.
on a lot of things.
Probably 99% of the time. We just act like we disagree.
Because we like arguing.
Yeah. One of us just voluntarily picks an opposite side and argue.
Or we'll find that one little thing. We're like, no, that's not quite right.
Yeah.
Liv and John enjoy conflict with each other.
Yes. We do.
And they bring it up on purpose.
Yes. We do.
Just for those listening, if you ever hear them nitpicking at each other.
For a Christian podcast, they love playing the devil's advocate.
All right, so we can go around to end this off. What would be your best advice when entering a conflict? Liv, we'll start. So it goes back into the...
It can go start with anyone as long as it's going this way. Because then when it goes this way, I'm really confused.
Liv, go ahead.
I would say the best advice I could give to someone to end conflict or just in general.
Conflict or after conflict or just when
In general,
when it
with
comes to a
conflict.
Know who you're having conflict with. You know, if you like, don't just have conflict with someone you don't know. Like, that's just dumb. That's just stupid. Like, for example, I said this in another podcast that we recorded.
The first one?
Yeah, but if that's not the first one, I'm just gonna say.
Oh.
You know, that's not the first one. Christians versus LGBT community. There's conflict because they don't know each other. They don't know the hearts of each other. And we're not treating them as humans. We're treating them as a group of people, associating them with a group of people mentality. Know who you're having conflict with. Learn the communication style of the person that you have conflict with and then approach conflict. Don't just go in hot and not know who they are. More people get hurt that way.
John?
For me, it's,
Good job. Never mind. Don't budge me.
For me, it'd be just remember to have love in your heart during it. That's
write that on your thing.
Yes, I just wrote love. Okay.
I was like, why did he write love? I'm so confused. Like, I'm wondering what love has to do with it. I'm just kidding.
But-
What's love got to do with it? Got to
Oh,
do
gosh.
with it.
Anyways, it's really hard to do at the moment, and I understand that as somebody who does get angry at the drop of a hat.
Would have fooled me.
I hide it relatively well.
You're not married to him.
Oh, tea.
But
How many more times can I interrupt you?
probably at
This
least
is a
3 more
good
times.
conflict handling,
Anyways.
people.
But Jesus, even in his anger with conflict, had love.
Mm-hmm.
And if you love the person on the other side of the argument, you're less likely to get to the point of wanting to reach across the table and choke them.
Preach.
I don't know about that.
love you, honey.
Uh-huh. Been a lot of times I wanted to reach across the table and strangle you.
Yeah, well.
It's surprising you're still alive.
Well, I mean, it's surprising that I survived to see the age of 6, too.
That's
but...
true.
Another way to handle conflict
It's Jordan's turn.
is to passive aggressively talk to each other via podcast about your conflict. That is Jordan's answer.
It's not my answer.
Close enough.
Oh
Just
my
kidding,
gosh.
I'm kidding.
Oh my gosh. I mean, just wait till you and I get passive about each other.
Yeah, we're pretty good at not doing that, though.
That's true.
Yeah.
Touch me with your foot one more time, and I swear I will punch you in the face.
It was actually an accident. I'm sorry.
It's okay. I just really
For a
wanted to
dancer,
overreact.
you're awfully squeamish about feet.
Uh-huh. I just wanted to overreact for no good reason.
Okay, what is your advice?
I would just say communicate in the best way possible, whether that be over the phone or but keep it as personal as possible and not impersonal. Don't try and do it over IM or text message or anything like that. I think
People still have IM.
I don't know.
Well, private messenger, I
Hour
am.
8.
DM, sorry. DM.
Sorry, I just was like, wow, I haven't heard that term in a long
I
time.
saw a really funny post on Twitter. Somebody saying, man, I wish when people went to your Instagram that you could have your favorite song playing so that people can visit your page and know what song you like. Yeah, and the person retweeted and said, this generation has discovered MySpace.
Wow.
Yeah. So mine is really short and simple. Put yourself in the other person's shoes. I mean, I know it goes along with what John said, but like, really and truly think what is motivating that person. Think about how well you know that person. Like in the case of, because I used to work in a restaurant too, if you don't know them, just assume that they're tired. You know, they're tired. They're not feeling good. Think about how you would feel if you were tired and you didn't feel good, which when you work in the restaurant business is typically all the time. So treat them with love and just...
You sound like the biggest hippie right there. Treat them with love.
Peace.
Throw flowers
Peace
at
and
them.
love.
There's got to be one in the group, you know what I mean?
I know.
So,
It
anyway.
ain't me, that's for sure.
About to flip Olivia's chair over backwards.
So yeah,
Why?
there's all that.
All right.
John, are you gonna do better at the intro this time?
You mean the
The
outro?
outro?
Yeah.
I did
Well,
the
first-
intro. Is it bad?
No.
Kidding.
It was amazing.
We have conflict? Just kidding.
Well, thank you for listening to this conflicting episode of Call to the Table. Please come and visit us at Call to the Table Pod at Instagram and Facebook. And feel free to email us at calltothetable@gmail.com.
.com.
I was hoping that was implied, but...
Well, we're not .org yet.
We ain't .edu.
Yet.
Yet.
And have a blessed and wonderful day.
Bye. Bye.
Oh, bye.